Shawn Lam here with Streaming Media Producer, and I'm meeting with Juan Martinez from Sony. We have the Sony FS700 in front of us here. What can you tell us about this camera compared to the 100?
Well, it is based on the same type of system as the FS100. The most important thing about it is E-mount. So this type of lens mount was designed so it can accept a great variety of lenses. So because the flange is so shallow, it's only 18 millimeters, you can put virtually any SLR, DSLR, and cine lenses on this camera. So this is the most important thing. You're not stuck with buying a certain brand of lenses, not even Sony lenses. You can buy whichever lens best works for you. So if it so happens that Nikon makes a beautiful shift tilt lens and you want to use that, you can use it with this camera without any loss of performance.
All right, so that's via an adapter. And so Sony has some adapters, the LAEA1, the LAEA2.
The LAEA2 is a brand new breakthrough technology. It allows a camera to do continuous autofocus
using phase detection.
Using phase detection. This means that the camera produces most of the light goes through the LAEA2 into the sensor to create an image, but a tiny amount of it is sent down to a beam splitter. And the beam splitter has a main image and a secondary image. And the secondary image could be the right or the left of the main image. And this tells the system if the focus is in front or behind your subject. So the system can very quickly focus the camera.
There's no focus jogging at that point.
There is no hunting.
Yes.
Traditional focusing on camcorders is using contrast depend. The image gets softer, but the system doesn't know if we're moving in the wrong direction until it knows that the image got progressively softer, and then it has to hunt back. The same thing once it goes over, it achieves the highest sharpness, it may overshoot a tiny bit and have to come back. The camera can continuously focus. We're showing a reel in N101, shot by Andy Young, and he has a dog racing towards him, and the dog races toward him for over 50 feet. And he's shooting at 240 frames per second, and the dog is always in focus. It is really uncanny. This is something that you couldn't possibly do by manually pulling focus. And he's doing this from low to the ground, so the camera is really functioning very well.
Let's go there right now. So slow recording, slow shutter speed, slow motion. What's the upgrade been on the FS700?
Well, this camera, it has an image sensor, it's 11.6 million pixels. It produces a 4K image, and it goes into a big memory buffer. And we can accumulate up to 16 seconds when the camera is running at 120 frames per second, and up to 8 seconds when the camera is running at 240 frames per second. Once it's transferred to 24p, in both instances, the playback time is 80 seconds of unbelievable slow motion.
So this is really, really super slow motion.
This is exactly how high-speed cameras operate. And until now, this kind of functionality was only available upwards of $30,000. So you're looking $30,000 to $100,000 to have that kind of functionality. And it is really amazing what the people have been able to record with this camera. We have, again, the reels that we're showing at N101, they're really surprising.
I've seen some of the slow-mo footage already, and it's really amazing. Let's talk a bit about future. So I see on here the zoom rocker on this handle here. What's that for? Tell me a bit about the E-mount roadmap.
I don't remember.
You don't remember.
I just want to talk about the multifunction handle. Okay. It has 4 buttons. It has a iris, momentary iris, so you can quickly set the exposure or find in the ballpark where you want to be. It has expanded focus, which could be 4 times or 8 times. It has a photo button that allows you to capture high-resolution images, and a start-stop button. And there's also a zoom rocker. Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty at this time to explain the details of what is going to happen.
So you're not at liberty to tell us that there will be a zoom lens at some point.
There is a W and a T in there for wide and tight, so it is obvious there will be some kind of zoom lens.
Okay.
But we can't talk about that at this moment.
All right.
But I do want to talk about another great feature of the FS700 is that it is utilizing an ARRI rosette. So there's ARRI rosette on the camera body, and there's a matching ARRI rosette on the hand grip. So this makes it, and a T-screw. This makes it very simple to adjust the location of the handle. But furthermore, this is fully compatible with accessories that are made for film cameras. So let's say with a simple ARRI hand grip extender, you could relocate the hand grip forward and down if you're shooting with heavy, long lenses. So this is a major breakthrough of this camera. No other camera in this kind of price range has something like this.
Fantastic.
And it's something that we're very, very proud of.
This is very modular. We've got a new handle up top as well. I mean, well, this is very heavy duty. And then moving down here, I see there's this larger component here, the ND filter. Now, this wasn't available on the FS100. What changed? How did we get that in to work with the small flange
That's an
back?
excellent question. What happened in the FS100 is we really wanted to make the best camera we could with that could take virtually any lens. And so we went with the 18mm flange depth. Unfortunately, the technology that existed at the time for neutral density filters would not, couldn't be used on the FS100. So what we have done is we borrowed from the F65, and there is ultra thin neutral density filters, and it is a turret. If you look at the camera, you can see that it has an eccentric configuration here in the front, and there's actually a turret that just clicks and rotates and puts the right filter on it. And the filter is located very close to the image sensor. This is another Sony breakthrough development. And we have been able to implement this. We have clear, 2 stops, 4 stops, and 6 stops.
So this is really going to allow us to get that shallow depth of field when we want without having to use the shutter speed at that point.
Exactly. Of course, you can, in addition to the neutral density, you can control the gain, and you can control the exposure time as well, the shutter speed or shutter angle.
Let's talk a bit about iris control, specifically when it comes to alpha lenses using the LAEA1 or the LAEA2. I know with the LAEA1, as it is, when we change iris, it goes full wide open and back down. That's the way the lens snaps in and out for the iris. What advancements have you made?
In the case of the LAEA1, there's no improvement because that is the design of the system. So the system is designed for still image cameras, and it wants to snap fully open and then snap closed to make sure that the lens is stopped to the actual aperture that you selected. On the other hand, on the LAEA2, where we have a microprocessor and more capability, then we're able to control the iris very smoothly. So in essence, it's changing with 1/3 of a stop, up and down. Of course, we have the indication in the viewfinder, and it gets recorded as data in the meta file, and the metadata on the video files.
Okay. So the iris changes will then be smooth on the LAEA2?
It will be relatively smooth because it's jumping at 1/3 of a stop, up or down. It's not flashing. It's like other cameras are double the price of this do that. So this is just the nature of the lens itself. On the case of the E-mount lenses, then it's fully smooth because these are designed for motion.
What can you tell me about the sensor? On the FS100, it's the same Super 35 sensor, but it's a 1080p resolution. On here, you're getting 4K off of it. What's changed? What differences will we notice, and what won't we notice?
Yes. Well, something that is really important is that this sensor is Super 35mm size. So this means that it can be covered by virtually any lens. So Cine lenses are only made to cover the film gate size on a film camera, and it will not cover a full frame camera. So you have a camera that has a so-called full frame sensor, it will not be covered at all by any of those lenses. The Sony is the largest image sensor manufacturer in the world. So we make upwards of 300 million image sensors. Yes. And we, part of the technology is, one of them is getting light into the photosite, and we achieved that by reducing the amount of material that the light has to go through to reach the sensitive part. And the other one is converting as much light as possible into an electrical charge that is proportional to that brightness on that particular landing on that particular photosensor. And all of this is technology, but it's maybe 20% magic. Okay. You cannot learn this in any room, in any book. So
will we experience an increase in noise from the FS700?
So you would expect that because the FS100 has just under 4 million pixels, and this camera has 11.6 megapixels. So the size of the photo sensor is about 1/4 the size of the FS100. But both cameras have exactly the same sensitivity. So this camera is rated ISO 640 to 20,000. And it is possible then to shoot with the camera in very low light. Again, I refer you to the reel that we're showing in N101, but Andy Young shot at night, yes, and a bonfire, and there's no noise. We're looking at it on a 20-foot screen, a 4K projector, and it looks extraordinary. Right. So what better proof? Exactly. If you're going to see artifacts, you would see it.
At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, is the video is going to look like it is low noise, and that's really the proof.
So even though the camera is recording HD, having a 4K sensor that is actually being read as 4K, because there are other 4K sensors that are read at HD resolution, allows us to capture finer detail and image texture, and it's possible to have a sharper image in the good sense of the word. So meaning that you have fine detail without having to apply electronic enhancement to try to make the image artificially sharper, which is one of the reasons why sometimes electronic images don't look like film.
That's right. All right. Now let's move to the back of the camera. One of my favorite features on here is the dual HDSDI out and HDMI out. And when I say dual, I mean both of them are live and active at all times. As a streaming media producer, I find that when I'm doing a live switch on the FS100, I'm limited by the amount of connectivity, so I want to have two outputs, one for the camera operator on their monitor, perhaps the HDMI output, and one to the video switcher, that would be the HDSDI out. What comes out of the HDSDI out? What other outputs are there on there?
Well, obviously we listen to a lot of people.
Yes.
And on this camera, we implemented a 3G HDSDI. Eventually, this will serve also as a high-speed data port, and it will output the 4K signal to an optional Sony recorder when that becomes available. Okay. In the meantime, or also, this is also a 3G HDSDI. So this camera can crank continuously at 1080 60p. So it is possible to get 1920 by 1080, 1080 60p out the spigot, 422, 8-bit, uncompressed, beautiful performance. And it can output all the progressive modes as either native progressive or segmented progressive frame, or with pull down. So it gives you every option under the sun. And it has embedded time code and audio.
Is that different from what's available currently on the FS100?
The FS100 doesn't have a 3G HDI, but it's very different also in terms of the HDMI. Yes. So the HDMI on the FS700, it has pull down to make it smoother and nicer when you're watching it, but we also added native progressive, because there are some recorders that don't have the capability of doing pull down extraction, And so we've added native progressive out of the HDMI. Of course, Sony also added time code
Yes.
and pull down markers in case you're recording pull down signal.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you very much, Juan. This has been a look at the FS700 at the Sony booth, NAB 2012. My name is Shawn Lam with Streaming Media Producer. Thank you.